So my name's Keira. Like she said, I was here last year. I don't know if anybody else remembers me. But whenever I came last year, I kind of focused a lot on talking about like the program here and about like making sure you were using it effectively and stuff like that. Like I didn't really get a ton into like myself very much. So I wanted to talk with you guys a little more this year about kind of why I was here in the first place, like where I was at mentally and those kinds of things. And you know, this here and how that all developed. So the reason I ended up in Ketterer was actually because I was originally in a program in Greensburg that shut down like Crossroads, which was like really, really bad and basically a zoo. We didn't have like any like stable staff really. Pretty much all of our teachers were just like constantly rotating substitutes and stuff. It was like super chaotic. And I don't think I learned the same thing the whole time I was there. And then 2 weeks before my senior year of high school was supposed to start, they were like, hey, yeah, so we closed your school. Good luck with that. And just kind of left us to our own devices there. So a lot of us ended up coming to Ketterer because it was really just the only program in the area that could take that many of us on such a short notice. And it was really, really lucky for me in my life that it did, because not only, you know, I know you're all probably like, yeah, but school sucks, but the fact that this was a real school and that it reintroduced like some structure and some learning and actual education ended up being really beneficial to me. But like I said, you know, we can talk about the programs all day long and not that really matters. The reason that I was in, you know, a different program than just in public school in the first place was because when I was about 9 years old, my older brother unfortunately passed away from an accidental gunshot wound. So obviously that kind of thing does quite a number on a really small kid's psyche, especially because we were incredibly close. Like I followed him everywhere like a little duckling. I would not leave him alone. I was obsessed with him. So his passing was obviously really, really difficult for me. And then, you know, on top of that, I'm trying to process losing my older brother and then in a manner kind of losing the rest of my family and the structure because, you know, my mom basically ended up like catatonic after that for a while. She would just like sit there and stare at a wall all day long. Like she wouldn't talk to anybody. She didn't want to like eat or drink anything. She was just like tunnel vision just all day long. So nothing there, no support, no help process, any of that. And my father unfortunately lost a lot of his other family around that same time too. Both of his parents and his brother all passed away in about the same like year or two period after my brother. So having lost so much of his family all at once like that, he ended up turning to alcoholism and became unfortunately a really heavy alcoholic. And that eventually led to abusive behaviors and that kind of stuff. So dealing not only with my older brother passing, but then all of the turmoil that caused in my family. I developed really bad depression, I had PTSD, you know, I developed really bad insomnia because like I already couldn't sleep at night. And then when I would sleep, I would just have nightmares and I'd wake back up and I would just go days and days and days with like no real rest. So I started falling behind in my classes. I couldn't retain the material. I just couldn't keep like anything in my head. I started missing school a lot because I was sleeping. I developed eating disorders and like I wasn't doing well physical health either. So like I was sick all the time. I was missing class. It eventually got to the point where I would have been like considered truant. And the school was like, hey, like we know these things happen. We know you lost your brother and stuff. Because he was only a year older than I was, so he was in their school too. So you know, we don't want this to become like a like legal you're truant, so you like end up like in trouble for it situation. So we kind of want to offer the ideas of like maybe you going to an alternative education school instead. You know, there's programs, partial programs where like part of your day you're doing school and part of your day you're doing therapy. And like, you know, you can get some help with the emotional stuff so that maybe that can help the educational stuff. So I'm kind of an odd case where a lot of people here are here because somebody told you have to be, somebody like put you in this program and was like, no, you have to be here. I was kind of a weird case of like, I voluntarily chose to be in one of these programs because I knew I was sick and I knew that I was struggling and I wanted that help. Which is kind of the, you know, life advice part of things that I want to talk to you guys about, which is like, you know, realizing that you need help and like reaching out places and like accepting, you know, a helping hand sometimes like isn't a bad thing. I know whenever I was going through all of that and like, especially once I did start doing like the alternative education programs and stuff, and I really just kind of like walled in, closed off, just like pure focus. So I was doing what looked like really good on the outside. Like I was like acing all of my papers, getting 100% on everything. You can ask Mr. Yu. I made him super angry because he never had a kid manage to keep 100% through his whole school year. And I was like, I'm gonna do that just to make you mad. So I did, and it drove him insane because he was trying really hard to even just make one thing I would miss, and I just kept working all around that. So on the outside, it looked like I was doing really, really good. But on the inside, I was just bottling everything up and just refusing to acknowledge any of it. Just, you know, being like, I'll deal with that later because I need to do this now if I want to get in like a good place to like have my own life and do my own thing. And like I said, you know, I'm dealing with my dad at this time who's like this abusive alcoholic. I'm like, I want to do good in school so that I can like go to college and get a good job and get away from him, right? So I was just ignoring basically everything that was going on inside. So I might have been doing really well outside, but inside it was all just, you know, together with like push pins. So whenever that was the case and everybody sees what's going on outside and they see like, oh, you know, like this kid like lost a sibling and it's like going through all this stuff, but like look at how good she's doing, like look at her schoolwork, and they'd be telling me things like, oh, you're so resilient, you're so strong, you're so mature, like, you know, you've gone through so much and you're doing so well. I can't imagine going through that kind of stuff. And it made me mad because I was like it's my choice, right? Like I'm deciding to go through all of this crap that I have to be resilient for. Like I didn't want to be resilient, I didn't want to be strong, I didn't want to go through all this crap and have some adult I barely know pat me on the back for like, good job. I wanted to be a kid and I wanted to grieve my brother and I wanted to have these emotions. I didn't want to be resilient, and I hated when people would tell me that. But then I was the one stopping myself from being vulnerable. You know, I hated the word resiliency, but even more than that, I hated the word vulnerable. And I was just walling myself off and being like, no, I can't let people in. I can't even let myself in. I have to ignore it because of what if I look at it and then I can't handle it anymore? What if I look at it and I fall apart, you know? And then I don't personally know you guys. I don't know what sort of like home lives and stuff you have, the things you've been through. But, you know, I know my life and the life of the kids that I was here with. You know, most of us got really let down by like the adults and stuff in our lives who should have been our safest places, who should have been the people we could go to for support. And a lot of that happens when you're really young. You know, you're like 5, 6 years old and going to your mom or dad because you're upset about something. And instead of comfort or understanding or anything, you're getting yelled at, you're getting told to get out of their face. Like, you know, children are better seen and not heard, that kind of stuff. And you learn not to come to people with things. You learn to push that all down and try to deal with it by yourself because the people in your life who you should be able to turn to for those things are actually conveying to you that they're not a safe place for that. and that reaching out only makes things worse. Reaching out only gets you yelled at or gets privileges taken away because you're trying to express that you're having some issue with somebody like harassing you on your phone, and instead of trying to help you solve that problem, they just take your phone or something like that, you know? So they show you that they're not safe places to come to. And when that happens when you are little, and it's these little things because you're 5, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but then when it's big problems later, when it's, hey, my boyfriend's hitting me and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. When it's, hey, my friends are all getting involved in dangerous drugs and they're pressuring me to do them too and I don't know what to do. Whenever it's, hey, whatever real life problem that is serious and you do need help for, they've already taught you that you can't go to them. That there is no help, that you just have to figure it out yourself. That you just have to, you know, buckle down and grit your teeth and push through it. And it's so hard when that's what you've learned, when your brain is literally forming as a child, to then realize later that that's not true. Not everyone that you can turn to for help is just going to hurt you for like making the effort. The people here genuinely have like dedicated their lives to like helping you guys and being here to be that safe place for you guys to be vulnerable. And I know it's really hard to like let anybody in because when you've walled yourself off like that, you're not processing that as isolating yourself, you're processing that as safety. If no one can get in here, no one can hurt me, right? And if no one can get in there, no one can help you either. You effectively put yourself under siege. Nothing's coming in, nothing's going out. And if what's inside is like these bad negative things, it's these difficult thoughts, these difficult emotions, eventually those castle walls are just going to fill up with that, and you're just going to be drowning in all of this negativity, and it has nowhere to go. And, you know, I was saying earlier to the other group, like, you can let the staff here stand here with a chisel and hammer and try to get in there to you, but you can also just open the gate. And that's not to say that you have to just decide that every single member of the staff here is like your best friend and you're going to confide in every single one of them. But if you can even find just one person that you're willing to let in, just a little bit. You don't have to bear your entire heart and soul to them like straight away. Like I said, I was here last year. I didn't tell you guys any of this. I didn't touch on any of it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm here. I work in movie theater. Yeah, because
I was gonna ask you that. I was like, what's the reasoning on the platform?
Yeah.
You work in a movie theater.
yeah, I'm a theater manager in Greensburg. But you know, it's like it can be scary to be vulnerable, and you know, even as an adult, like I'm here talking to you guys, it can be scary to be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I went through. You know, maybe one of you is going through something similar and something I have to say about it, right? But like, it's still scary to do that. I have no weight in this. If I come in here and you guys are all like, boo, you suck, like, that doesn't actually affect me any, but it's still scary. So if it's scary for even that, then like, it's so much scarier for things that are actually serious, things that actually matter. And I get that, and I know that because I was holding those all up and not telling anybody any of those things. So the kind of final straw for me that made me actually eventually like reach out for help here was when I was in the program when I was 17. And I ended up leaving home in the middle of the night at about like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. My father had gotten extremely drunk and was being incredibly violent, and my mom was genuinely scared he was going to kill me. So she told me to leave. Me to like get it back together and just go. I didn't know where to go. I was 17 and like had just been told to like leave my house because one of my parents might like seriously harm me. So I'm on like the side of the road with like a backpack full of clothes and like no idea what to do. And you know, I end up like calling and talking to people here about like, hey, this just happened. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Like, help. because there was finally a problem that I didn't know how to solve for myself. And like, yeah, I could have probably like called around to some friends and like maybe like couch surfed my rest of the way through high school, but like that would have been miserable. And I'm really glad that that's not the choice I made for myself. Instead, I chose to let myself have that moment of vulnerability and be like, hey, I have a problem that I don't know how to solve, and I need help with this one. And the people here were like immediately on it, immediately started helping me sort out. I ended up moving in with my friend and her mom. They helped us figure out all the legal stuff for like a thing that we could do, and like her having like guardianship of me and all that kind of stuff. That I was fully entirely out of my depth with. And like I said, I probably would have just couch surfed the rest of my way through high school otherwise. But the people here were able to help me figure out how to navigate all of that and get myself into a safe place. So literally overnight, I went from being in a household where the building was falling apart around me, like the faucet in our shower just like didn't exist. It was just like a metal pipe coming out of the wall, and that's like only if there was water running to the house in the first place. The laundry room floor was just a hole, and it had a 2x4 across it that you had to walk across to get to the washing machine. And if you fell off the side and just went to the basement, that was full of just pointy rocks, which is ridiculous. The bathtub looked like it was literally at any time ready to fall through the ceiling in the kitchen. You could just see the outline of it. And like I said, outside of the material conditions of the house, on top of that, I'm dealing with my father, who at this point had turned into this violent, abusive drunk. And, him and my mom screaming and fighting every night. I'm like dragging him up the stairs into bed so that I don't have to listen to my mom scream at him about being passed out on the floor again. Like, dealing with literally having to stand in between him and my little brother because my little brother, who's like 4 at the time, is like being too noisy for him or something. A toy's making a wrong noise and he's trying to hurt my little brother, and I'm standing in between this grown man and the 4-year-old. Like, it went from that to like I was in a safe, warm home with a warm bed and warm food and, like I said, safety overnight, because I allowed myself one moment of vulnerability to be like, I don't know what to do here. So one moment of vulnerability can literally change your life so much. You don't have to like tell everyone every single thing, but sometimes that strength and that what we've decided is protecting ourselves and is safety is actually just isolation. You're just walling yourself off from anybody who can help you, from anyone who wants to help you, from anything better. You're just building those walls and refusing to let them budge at all, even a little bit. And the only thing that's doing is a disservice to you. I understand that a lot of you probably do genuinely have to keep yourself safe from certain people in your life, keep yourself safe from certain situations. And that's not something that should take you on purpose. Everyone should just get to have a safe childhood and like be a kid and be a teenager and just get to live like a normal life. And I understand that that's not important for everybody. But you have to learn to see the difference between those people and the people like the ones who work here who genuinely want to help you and see better and see you safe. And when you learn to see those differences, you can start to let those safe people in. And they can start to help you deal with some of those negative things, take some of that negativity out, bring some positive stuff in, help you start finding the pathways to like a good, better life for yourselves. Because I don't know what my life would be like if Crossroads hadn't closed and I was still there, or I hadn't made that call. Like, I don't know what my life would look like if I hadn't had Keira's help through that whole situation. Like, I very well could have just ended up like sleeping on the side of the road. I could have gotten picked up by somebody. Like, I have no idea what that might have looked like. So having these people here and having even just that one moment of reaching out and saying, hey, I need help, changed my life from whatever that might have looked like, which I don't know, but I guess bad, to like came here, I was in a safe home. I finished high school, graduated, went to college with the Adelphi Promise, like have a nice job that like I'm happy at. I have a safe home with my only partner. Like it's all of the turmoil and the items that I thought was just infinite. When no one in my household is screaming and fighting with each other and throwing stuff and hitting each other, it just doesn't happen. That's just not the life I made for myself. And the reason that I was able to make a better life for myself than that is because of being here and accepting the help that was provided to me here and using that to launch myself into a better life. And like I said, I know it's really hard and it's really scary to be like, I even have vulnerabilities. It's so much better if you just pretend like everything's perfectly fine, if there's nothing wrong, nothing to see of your books. Because if there's no problems and there's no cracks, like how could anything go wrong? How can anything break me? How can anything mess me up when I'm fine? What are you talking about? No, I'm fine. But like I said, that's only doing a disservice to you. You only have to find one person that you're willing to let in just a little bit to help you through those things that maybe you're not sure how to do. Maybe you don't know how to apply for scholarships. Maybe you don't know how to find affordable housing for like once you're out of the program here. You know, there's all these different things that maybe you're just like, I just don't know how to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that or wrong with admitting that or wrong with admitting that you need help with something. So I just really encourage you guys to, like I said, try and process the difference between keeping people out because they are harmful people and letting the right people in because they want to help you. You know, like I said earlier, of like you basically put yourself under siege. And, you know, maybe that's necessary for, you know, the enemy invaders of like people who are hurting you, who are abusing you, people who are bullying you, who are putting you down, who are making you feel these negative ways and having these negative impacts on you. But that's not the case for like the humanitarian aid that just wants to come in and like provide like food and medicine and those kind of things. Like you have to know which people to let in. And it can be hard to know which people are the safe people when you don't have a good reference point. But that's why it's so nice that you guys are in a program like this and you have access to these people here because all of these people are the good people. I know you probably have your issues with different ones of them of like, oh, well, like, he gave me this problem or she gave me that problem and she's mean and this, that, and the other. But like, at the end of the day, these people are here because they want to see you guys do well. They want to help. They want to see you thrive. And like, you don't have to be in love with all of them. But if you can even find one of them who you can allow a little trust with, allow those moments of vulnerability. Like I said, just one moment of that vulnerability can fully change your life. So I would just really encourage you guys to realize when maybe sometimes there is a problem or something that's maybe a little bigger. There is something that you may be a little unsure of how to handle. And reach out. Because reaching out just that one time completely changed the trajectory of my life. And like I said, I don't know what any of you are going through. I don't know what's going on at home. I don't know what's happening in your lives. But frankly, we all know if you're here, it's because there's something, right? So whatever that something is, if it's something that you realize, maybe this is a little bigger than I should have to deal with by myself. Maybe every other kid gets to turn to their parents, gets to turn to another sibling, gets to turn to some guardian, some trusted adult. Why don't I get to? You can. They're literally right here. You just have to let them know. I think that's my like preachy spiel.
A couple minutes left. Does anyone have any questions for her?
Anyone has any questions?
How did you like find yourself? Like you said that you have a partner and like everything is like,
So that's actually a very clear decided moment for me. Because, and I'm sure some of you will also think like, well, I will, but like, whenever I was younger, I really liked Korean drama, so I was like started learning Korean when I was like maybe like 12, and then the whole K-pop boom happened, right? So I got really into K-pop, and all of my friends at the time were like, "That's so stupid. Your interests are so stupid. That's so lame." Like blah 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 blah, and were just being like really mean to me about it. And one of them just, I think blatantly kind of said something like, "That's so stupid. I don't know why you like that." And it was just like this like switch flip in my head where I was like, really, you don't get to treat me like that. You can think that my interest is cheesy. You can think that this is dumb. It cannot be your thing. But like, you guys just sit here and you just harp on me about it just over and over and over and over. You're not being friends. That's bullying. You're just bullying. And like, it's not cool and it's not funny. And I'm not going to be treated like that. I'm not going to let people treat me in ways that are like mean and crappy and that I shouldn't have to deal with because I'm not doing that to you. So why are you doing it to me? So I basically put my foot down with all of my friends and was like, you guys can either actually be my friends and like be nice to me, or you can go elsewhere because like I don't need that. And some of them were like, crap, man, like, yeah, you're right. Like, we kind of have like been being crappy to you, and I'm sorry to like, stop acting like that towards you. And some of them were like, it's just a joke, man. You can't take a joke. And those people, I was like, okay, bye. And so then, you know, it really did shrink my friend group, but then it was an actual friend group, not like some friends and some assholes, frankly. So once I did that, and it was like I was around people who were genuinely supportive and who we were genuinely like interested in each other's hobbies, and like we were like, oh, that's cool. Tell me more about that. Show me this thing you've made, like that kind of stuff. Once I had realized that like you don't have to let people treat you just however they see fit. You can set your own boundaries and be like, no, this is me, this is my life, this is the way that I'm okay with being treated. And if you're not gonna fit in those parameters, I don't need you. And once you like actually establish and set those boundaries and like hold them, you'll find the right people. And once you find the right people, everything kind of follows, right? Because like you find good people, you have a good home life, you have good friendships, you guys are doing good, like constructive, positive things together, having a good support system, and it all just kind of falls into place. Because my partner now is, you know, was part of those friend groups and that all happened. And like I said, you know, some of them were like, oh, okay, like we didn't realize it was like upsetting you like that, like no stop. And he was one of them. And you know, then we were friends for several more years, and then one thing turns into another, and then suddenly you're moving 1,000 miles back from Florida to meet with some guy who you've known for 7 years, but have only liked for 2, apparently. I was like, hey, the thing with this been easier, couldn't you have done this before all of that? So I didn't have to, you know, it's like I said, realizing that like you define the way that people treat you. And that if people are treating you poorly, you just don't have to put up with that. You just don't. And I feel like that was like a huge wake up moment for me of like being like, yeah, I mean, I guess I just have to deal with it because like it's just a joke and they're just being my friends, even though it's like hurting my feelings and stuff. And it was just like this moment of like, chilling. That's crappy. And you're being crappy. And your options are stop being crappy or stop being there. Choices first. So, you know, I set those boundaries and held on to them because it's really easy to say you have a boundary and then just let everything slide past it. I set those boundaries and I held those boundaries. And it made it so that the people in my life were actually good, supportive, healthy friends. All of these toxic, negative relationships.